You are listening to the Critical Mass Radio Show, Orange County's business talk show, focused on exploring topics of interest to CEOs who are leading middle market companies. With your host, Richard Franzi.
Hello and welcome to Orange County's longest running business talk show. And yes, I am your host, Rick Franzi. And ooh, do we have a good show planned for you today? Why do you ask? Because as you can see, Julie Hudash is our guest. She is the CEO and founder of Team Kids and a returning guest here on Critical Mass Business Talk Show. Julie, welcome back to the program.
Hey, it's wonderful to be back, my friend.
We got a lot to talk about, so let's get right into it. Take us back in time and talk to us about what you saw, what was the need, what was the original motivation for you to start Team Kids?
You know, it goes back really to me as a child and caring so much about issues as kids, even when I was a kid. I joke that I was a youth advocate when I was a youth. I always was sticking up for kids and just inspired by the potential that young people have. I really knew at a young age that I wanted to use my life to make a difference and just didn't know how. I didn't know, how do I find my path in knowing that my life had a purpose. And then when I was at USC, I ran track at USC. I was captain of my track team and had the chance to do mentoring in South Central LA in the schools around USC. And it was such an eye-opening experience for me growing up in Irvine. Went into classrooms with football players and basketball players and certainly athletes that were much more exciting for young students to get a chance to meet. And I was just blown away about the inequities in education and just to see how much the students there wanted to be seen and heard and to have a chance to be significant. And it just left a really indelible mark on me as I finished school and went to graduate school for a short stint. And how can I create equity for young people for opportunities and exposure and mentors? And so I kept trying to figure out, is it another nonprofit I have to work for? How can I make that difference? And after a short stint in corporate America, so I worked for Irvine Compton and I worked for AT&T. I realized I really, just recommitted, doubled down back to working with young people. And I often tell people today who see me and they're like, I want to start a nonprofit. I want to make a difference. And I always say hey, all of these jobs you're having leading up to that, you're getting tools in your toolbox, because I don't think I could have founded a nonprofit without that corporate experience of budgeting and planning and presenting. And so all those business skills were really important. And then my husband and I have 5 grown kids, but when they were young, I was really searching for a way for them to be involved, helping other people, having a voice, feeling like they can stick up for what they believe in, and just that leadership and that empathy. And honestly, in the United States, I could not find a way for our kids to do that because we often look at younger kids when that window of compassion is wide open and kids want to save the rainforests and end violence. And there's not a way for young people to serve because often they're a liability to insurance. If you're not 15, if you haven't taken a safety class. So I was really aware of just a paradigm shift that needs to happen in our country where we can reach and engage young people when they want to do great things, when they're excited about building a life of purpose. And really in our country, we don't show up aside from teachers. We just don't give kids an opportunity to really lead and play a powerful role in the dreams that they have. And so I decided, you know what, I'm just going to start with my own kids in their school. And so in 2001, in March, just before September 11th, I started Kids Helping Kids alongside our 5 kids in their elementary school, where we're at with their friends. And that initial program, the kids ended up mobilizing an entire community to save the life of a little boy who was dying alongside Irvine PD and Orange County Fire Authority. And it was just this real eye-opener to our community of, wow, maybe we're leaving some potential here by waiting to engage kids until they do service to get into college, when actually they start really wanting to have those experiences. So that was really the impetus. And the children, my children, their friends really drove the impact and the awareness that I think really spurred on Team Kids to where it is today.
So where is it today? Tell us the mission, what you're doing, how are you helping? Explain your organization to us.
So our mission is to empower kids to change the world. We're going into our 24th year, which is just amazing,
Right.
of doing service. We're currently running programs in 4 states, in California, Arizona, Virginia, and a big expansion in New York City, actually. And we do a lot of things, but our flagship program is a 5-week program that is a full school intervention. So we actually have entree into the public schools during the day. So we train on-duty police and firefighters as non-enforcement mentors for young people. And we run a 5-week program in all of these schools during the day. We have assemblies. We have access to every child in that school for 4 weeks. And the Teen Kids Challenge is like a boot camp for social entrepreneurship, teaching kids how to start a business, having them think like, how would I change the world if I had a magic wand? So kids who talk about ending racism, curing cancer for kids, making sure no one's homeless. So kids brainstorm. So this flagship program is called our Teen Kids Challenge. It's, like I said, this 5-week program starts with the kickoff assembly with police and fire. And kids learn about this whole month of how the students are going to work together each week to learn about a different issue in their community, work together as a team to make a difference. And then the oldest 2 grades of students, our staff and police and fire, work together with them for 5 weeks, once a week during their lunch. And they actually learn how to start a business. They break down into groups. They vote on an issue as philanthropists themselves. So it might be for Chalk Hospital to raise money for kids that have cancer. But these students, these 2 grades, they break down into small groups and they get a business plan. They come up with their own business slogan, how much their business will be. They learn about all the items they need for their business, what the expenses are. And then they create their business, their banner, their slogan. At the end of the 5 weeks, these 2 older grades host a school-wide carnival for the younger kids and the police and firefighters. They raise money, they sell tickets, and 100% of the money actually goes to the charity they voted on as philanthropists. So it's mobilizing the students to have a voice, to think about what's important to them, and to learn how to start a business. And it really comes full circle with the kids to really, at the core of our mission is to help kids know they matter, they're significant, that they're needed. So one of my favorite part of the kickoff assembly is, we could have 6 to 8 uniformed police and firefighters on the stage. And at the end of the assembly, they say, our job is helping people, and we just cannot do this by ourselves. So we're so proud of you for helping the homeless and helping animals. And we all just want to know, can we be on your team? And so it's the shift of power. And so the program itself is empirically validated, tremendous amount of research. We know it's making a difference, but at the end of the day, it's really about creating this dual paradigm shift of how do our young people feel about themselves, feeling capable, having self-efficacy, that they can affect change, and changing the way adults in our communities view kids. We sometimes don't have kids matter until maybe they can vote.
Right.
And the truth is, the future of our country they're all sitting, 5th grade right now, waiting for a chance to matter.
Julie, how did you come up with the idea that teaching them social enterprise, being entrepreneurs, was the way to solve the problem? Where did you make that connect? I love it, but how did you come up with that?
I would love to say I came up with it out of my brilliant thought process.
Okay.
Really driven by the kids. That first program, and on our website, our founding story is there. But the kids met a little boy who was dying. He had a very rare heart defect. He was dying a couple times a week, and OCFA paramedics were shocking his little heart back to life. He was 3 years old. And I showed the kids the article in our first program, and they said, we're going to raise enough money to help him get to the Mayo Clinic for heart surgery. I've never seen such mobilized sense of passion and purpose in my life. These kids were 8, 9, and 10 years old. And they were like, we're going to have car washes. We're going to sell popsicles. We're calling our grandparents. And to make a really longer, more powerful story short, they blew everyone away. The fire department, they had a pancake breakfast with the fire chief. We had reporters from the LA Times, the Orange County Register at the pancake breakfast.
Nice.
And I know one of them asked one of our young kids at the time, what if it's impossible to raise enough money to save Jeremy's life? And little Matthew Copley said, impossible just means you didn't try hard enough. You know, and the reporter looked at me like, what are you doing with this kid? But in fact, the story was in the LA Times and Orange County Register. A celebrity was so moved, he donated $18,000. That was in the paper. And in turn, a wealthy gentleman donated his jet, his pilot, and his fuel to fly little Jeremy, the paramedics, and his parents to the Mayo Clinic for heart surgery. And that was 23 years ago. And Jeremy's 26, our firefighter who didn't believe could help the firefighters because, you know, became my founding board president. He said, I learned the most important lesson in my life, and that is do not count out the kids because they inspired the whole community. So really, to your question, it really was a response to the fact that giving kids a chance to really think what they're passionate about and giving them a chance, they actually mobilize everyone far more than adults. They don't have an agenda, right? Their agenda is just doing what's right.
Right.
And they don't, you know, they're not lobbyists. And so what happens is when we give kids a voice, it mobilizes the whole community. It makes us all better teachers, better adults, better firefighters, better police officers, because of the genuine desire to create change. And we teach in many different cities. And so some places is even more important, but it's important for all children developmentally to know that their community sees them as a resource in their future.
Absolutely. I know this is all very inspiring. I know we have some breaking news. I wonder if you might be able to share that with our audience.
Yeah, you know, I am so proud of what has been accomplished here in Orange County and LA County, but, you know, primarily here in Orange County with stakeholders saw the opportunity to impact kids outside of maybe their traditional roles, whether it's a police chief, a fire chief, a superintendent, a manager of like, hey, we have these resources. How can we work together innovatively to make a difference for kids? So I'm really excited. About 6 years ago, we piloted our first program in New York City with NYPD and FDNY. So it's the biggest school district, biggest police department, fire department, and city in our nation, with just tremendous results. We're in East New York, Brooklyn, which is the #1 most violent, vulnerable community that NYPD ranked out of 150 precincts. And so we've been working there for a while in partnership with the Macquarie Group, which is an Australian-owned investment bank, and they have a big presence in Manhattan. And they have been so incredibly generous over the last 7 years, and they're our biggest corporate sponsor now. And so we were at the Gracie Mansion just last Thursday, and Macquarie Group and Team Kids won the 2024 Mayor's Partnership Impact Award from the Mayor of New York City at Gracie Mansion. And it was surreal. It was so special. We were there with NYPD and New York City Department of Ed. And, you know, it's good for Team Kids, but it's not just us. Like, the thing that Team Kids is such a differentiator is, you know, we're showing up in schools with police officers and firefighters who take their enforcement side off and just mentor kids to thrive and do fabulous and know they feel well. And so to be able to have that kind of spotlight with the New York City mayor, to really thank and honor Macquarie, he was so generous, never asked for anything really in return in terms of exposure. So to be with them at the Gracie Mansion and really be able to say, you know, this is a coast to coast story. What started here in Orange County to receive an award like that in New York City lifts us all up.
Well, congratulations. That's our timing worked out really well. Who knew at the time we set this date that you'd be telling that story with us? Okay, so your organization's been around for 20 plus years. There must have been, over the arc of the organization, 1 or 2 times when you were facing some challenges. And I wonder, as the leader and founder, can you share one of those times with us and maybe what you did about it to persevere and get through that time?
You know, there's been a few things. One was probably about 2005. We were just about a 3-year-old organization. We had our only grant, which was part of a federal grant with IUSD, that was just a couple $1,000s a year. And so I was working full time, and my husband and I had 5 little kids too. So I was working full time, and I wasn't making money, and we were paying for me to do the job. Right. So starting a nonprofit is not, you know, it takes a lot of capacity to invest in it. And we had a free office. We had lost that office. And I kind of hit my lowest point, and I thought, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And keep in mind, the kids had just saved this little boy's life, right? There was this spotlight on them as being like superheroes. And I was one time I'm really an optimistic and not someone who really kind of gets too down, but we lost our office, and then I just thought, how do we do this? And I was talking to a friend of mine who's actually he was a chaplain for Irvine PD at the time. And we met, and he was like, "How are you doing? I'm worried about you." And I actually just started crying, which, again, I'm not really a crybaby in the whole scope of things. And he's a chaplain, so he was like, "Oh, Julie, I'm so sorry." And so, when someone's so comforting, you just opens up a whole floodgate. So I kept crying. He's like, "Oh man, this is so hard." And then he just looked at me and he said, "Are you done now?" And it was such a bait and switch, because he just said, "Now I'm going to tell you there's no way in hell you're quitting. You are representing what kids need most. And, if you're not feeling confident and you're going to quit, you can quit in 3 months, but not today." And just thought, I got to get through this kind of darkest time. And the next week we got a call from a retired cardiologist from Hogue, who owns the office buildings down by the Newport Athletic Club. And he said, "You know what? I don't really know what you're doing, but I know it's important." And he gave us a free office. And so those are kind of things on the Team Kids. That was about as desperate as it's been. I think with nonprofits funding, it's just hard to do work that's changing lives and also be worried about that. So those are times. And then personally, about a year and a half ago, I'm totally healthy now, but I had a really scary diagnosis of having a brain tumor. And I had brain surgery, and it was benign. They got the whole tumor, and I'm not paralyzed, very few deficits. And so, personally, when you think of have I hit a challenge, that would be the scariest one. And, it's left me grateful to have a second chance in my life, and more passionate than ever that this work really matters. We're in a day and age with unprecedented pediatric mental health crisis. We have kids 8 years old that have suicidal ideation and harming themselves. And so, it's really a time where our young people feel lonely and not connected. And so, and another relevant issue is just what's happening, some of the issues around law enforcement and police legitimacy and community-based policing. And so I feel like what Team Kids has done for 23 years and is now proven, research in the American Psychological Association journal and 3 other top journals, that this program actually is impacting kids and their future and lowering high-risk behavior. While it's mattered all 23 years, the truth is the world has changed in a lot of ways.
Yes, it has.
And so I think that I know that proven outcomes that Team Kids is doing is really aligned with the most relevant issues in the country right now. And it is more important than ever that, I don't think we have the privilege to just run a nonprofit, or not just, but only be a teacher or only be a police officer, only be a firefighter, or only run a business. We have to collaborate, we have to innovate, and we really have to support and protect and inspire our next generation of our workforce. No one's born as an adult, so anyone who's out their workforce, they need to feel safe, and they need to know how to collaborate and communicate and be important. So I think, on a human interest level, it's just, I don't think it's ever been more critical that we're doing the work we can with young people before they give up on their dreams, before they decide, hey, yeah, sure, I'll smoke pot or go do. So it's a very precious age.
So, I want to bring it back to the entrepreneur side of it, because I know you've had a dramatic impact on kids, and you have a program, Team Kids Lemonade. So I wonder if you could maybe talk about that aspect of the work that you're doing.
It is so exciting. So Team Kids Lemonade is actually a service project that was started right after Katrina. Our board president, Captain Steve, who was the one who worked with us, became my board president after Jeremy's life was saved, was part of Urban Search and Rescue. And he was responding to Katrina. He was on a rubber boat in New Orleans. And he challenged the kids through an Orange County Register embedded reporter that the kids at Team Kids were going to help the kids in New Orleans. We brought kids together and we said, how can we help? And they said, we want to have lemonade stands. And so Team Kids Lemonade was born then. We've since hosted a nationwide Team Kids Lemonade after every major natural disaster. And kids have raised over $100,000, one sticky quarter at a time, we say, for the American Red Cross and other nonprofits that are helping victims of disasters. And so a couple years ago, I had a chance to meet with Jeff Roberts, who owns Sergeant Pepperoni's. And I said, we've always wanted our own Team Kids Lemonade that would, as an earned revenue, like a social enterprise. And Jeff was like, well, let's do it. And so within 6 weeks, we created this beautiful product, fresh product, Team Kids Lemonade, that is sold in his restaurants with 100% of the revenue coming back to fund our programs. And that's so powerful because we don't charge schools for our programs, or we wouldn't be in Compton or East New York, Brooklyn. And 100% of what kids raise, we donate to charities of their choice. So really having revenue to fund our mission and movement for kids, we really need that extra revenue. And so we launched that product, and that's an iteration of expansion. And we're about to relaunch a Team Kids Entrepreneurship Kit. It's like a little briefcase, and it helps the child learn how to host their own lemonade stand and learn through the process, what is revenue? What is your net revenue, your gross revenue? What are your expenses? How to run a business? What are the tools? And so through the process of hosting a lemonade stand to make a difference in the world, kids are actually learning real-time experience of how to start a business and run a business. So both of those products are kind of in the works and excited to move forward.
That's amazing. That's wonderful. I know that you have an event talking about fundraising and raising money on June 4th at Segerstrom. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Okay. It's going to be the most amazing event. We've done incredible events over the last 23 years. As a matter of fact, I think that's when I first met you, when we were at an event up at Oakley.
Yes.
Yes. Forum with iconic CEOs. This is going to be a little bit more of a town hall meeting in terms of what kids need to be successful today. It's called our Flapjacks and Fast Cars. We just found out that Orange County Fire Authority firefighters are actually going to be hosting the pancake breakfast, which circles back to our founding event when we saved Jeremy, that pancake breakfast. So the firefighters are going to be out. It's Tuesday, June 4th at the Segerstrom Shelby Center, the new auto center in Irvine. And it's just going to be an amazing day with our partners, but we also have one of the most inspiring keynote speakers. His name is Arshay Cooper. He's flying in from New York. He's the author of the book, A Most Beautiful Thing. And Amazon Prime, there's actually a documentary by the same name on Amazon Prime. He is one of the most inspiring speakers I have ever heard in my life. He grew up in West Chicago, in one of the most violent areas in the nation. And he had a chance through his high school to learn about rowing crew. He was part of the first all-black crew rowing team. And how that experience changed his life and provided opportunities. And he really speaks about just equity and education and opportunity and exposure. But his life kind of grew up in a community where there's multi-generational trauma. His mother was a drug addict. Saw somebody got shot when he was like 8 years old. His friends were in rival gangs, and that's just the neighborhood he grew up in Chicago. And he's just one of the most compassionate, powerful speakers about the power of young people, despite their background or what neighborhoods they're growing in, that kids have the same opportunity, the same, resilience and creativity and brilliance. It's just so many of our young people just don't get opportunities and exposure. So he lived 4 miles from downtown Chicago, and he had never been there till he was 17. And, but he's just this inspiring speaker. He was in South Africa just a short while ago. He was invited there to work with kids. And so we're really lucky to have him here in Orange County, and he is truly a gift. So we're excited. He's the keynote speaker. And I really hope that the room is not just full, but full with the people who really are committed to creating the kind of change for young people today.
So we're going to get your website here in a minute so that people can learn more about the event on June 4th. But before we get there, I wanted to ask you about the future. What's your vision for the future of Team Kids?
Yeah. So my vision is that Team Kids is taught in every elementary school in the nation.
Wow.
Similar to, I don't know if you remember when we had the DARE program.
Mm-hmm.
What I think is most fascinating is I believe there's enough resources in every community to deliver what kids need today. There's so many resources in every community, in police and fire. And our research now has proven that pre and post test after a full randomized control trial delivered by Arizona State Criminology Department, that the Team Kids Challenge makes kids feel more positive about their future. It makes them feel more connected to their school, to caring adults, makes them, empathy and self-efficacy, and it also builds these powerful relationships between police and fire. So we know now the program helps kids thrive, but it's also correlated to building protective factors to lower high-risk behavior, drinking, drugs, alcohol, violence. So my vision is that this is just what happens in our country. Kids in our schools from kindergarten through 6th or 8th grade every year spend a month working with their own police and firefighters, looking at their community at ways that they wish they could solve problems, and are mobilized to be the caring advocates that can address homelessness and hunger and abandoned animals and ending cancer and ending racism. And, all of the issues come from the kids, but I just feel like there's every resource there. All of them are just not tied together in a way that put our kids in the lead. So that is my vision, and my dream is that, we're really using community resources together to invest in every single school in the country and every single student, one kid at a time, one school at a time, to know that they matter, that they're significant, and that this world actually needs them and their dreams to be the best they can be.
Wow. What a nice, inspiring vision that is. And I have no doubt you will accomplish it, Julie. Let's talk about how people can learn more about Team Kids. Where would you say they go online for that?
I mean, LinkedIn is great. It's wonderful to connect. Just Julie Hudash on LinkedIn. Our website is just teamkids.org. And again, it's TEAMKIDS. Sometimes people think it's teen as in teenagers. So teamkids.org. LinkedIn is a great. Instagram, our Team Kids Instagram is amazing. You'll see these programs unfolding in New York and in Irvine and in Compton and in Phoenix. Our Instagram is Team Kids ORG, but daily, just to really see the impact that we're having. But those would probably be the best ways. And come June 4th, because it's going to be an incredibly inspiring morning.
Well, I was excited to have you back on the show when we started talking about this earlier this year, and I'm so glad you continue to have the enthusiasm, energy, vigor, and everything else to drive Team Kids to the next level. Thank you for being a guest on my show. I appreciate you giving this your time today.
Oh, thank you so much, Rick. I really appreciate it, and thanks for all you do to spotlight, the amazing things and leaders in our community.
I'd like to thank our audience. You've just been a part of Orange County's longest running business talk show. Julie's interview will join our archives of over 1,400 episodes that we've done over the 15 years we've been on the air. If you're an Orange County entrepreneur or a nonprofit leader and you'd like to share your story with our audience, then reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm Rick, R-I-C, Franzi, F-R-A-N-Z-I. That happens to be our company's website as well, rickfranzi.com. And between Haley and myself, we'll talk to you and schedule you for a future appearance on the program. Until the next time we all have a chance to be together, I hope all of your decisions move your organization in a positive direction.